So
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, so far it's okay. I mean,
yeah,
I can listen. That's more important.
yeah. So do we need to wait for someone, or shall I start? Maybe Sonam.
6:30, 9:30.
Okay. Yeah. So the main point which we were discussing is the landscape, which I wanted to explain.
Yeah.
So let us continue our discussion with the landscape point. So let me. Okay, so first we need to understand what is a landscape. Like whenever we are working in an SAP atmosphere, SAP environment, we have to understand what is the landscape. So first of all, like as yesterday we were discussing, most commonly, first the client has some SAP R3 system, then only he would prefer to go for a SAP BI system. Along with that, he might be having some other uh, file systems, like from where he can get the data into BW. So these are the different scenarios. Okay, so what generally we need to know is, like, if you see the diagram over here, this is the diagram regarding the landscape. So if you see over here, taking an example of getting data from R3 or ECC, anything one and the same. Okay, so let us say we are getting the data from R3. So I need to build a solution for this. So how do I build a solution for this? Directly I cannot pull the data from R3. I need to have three different systems. Okay, the first system is the development system. Then we have the quality and the production. So these are the three systems which we need. So we need to understand what is happening in each system. Okay, so development system. What do we do in the development system? Whatever is our requirement, I will be first trying out in the development system. Okay, just like you are seeing over here in the GUI.
Muted.
Okay, so in the GUI you are seeing so many entries are there. Likewise, what entries you will be commonly having is, like for example, DBW, that is for development BW, then QBW, quality BW, then PBW, production BW. So like this, multiple entries you are having. So this is not my official system, so you are unable to see those entries, but generally in the official systems, you will be having so many those entries will be there. Just like we are having for BI and DCC, like that we will be having for different systems. Okay, so like let us say I have to create a info queue. I have to build a report. For that I am creating an info queue. So that is my scenario. So sales data I am getting into BW. I need to build reports. So I am bringing it into InfoQ. So what I need to do? First I need to do it in the development box. So this is another, like as I told you, one entry will be there over here. So you log into the development client. In the development client, you do all the development. You design the flow, basically the data flow you will be designing. Okay. And once you design the flow, you should test it whether you are able to load some data or not into your queue. So that
So the
testing is,
development ECC box will always have the data, same data as what we have in production, or subset of data we will have in the development box, development environment.
yeah, so that's what, like coming to the same point, like we need to load data into our object to find out whether we have developed it properly or not. So that loading where we are doing is from the corresponding ECC development box. So I am working in my BW development box that is connected to my ECC development box. So I will be pulling all the, whatever data loading I might be testing over there. It gets the data from the ECC development box. Okay, so ECC development box generally dummy data will be there. So not original transactions. No one will be doing over there. It's a dummy data. Okay, so our main aspect in this development box testing is not to check the validity of the data, just to check whether I am able to load or not. Just that testing is called as unit testing. Okay, so I will be doing unit testing in development box. Okay, once I am okay with my unit testing, that I am at least able to load the data into my info queue. Whatever query I have built on my queue, that dummy data, it's at least showing that. So that's fine. Okay, so this is the thing which we do in the development box. So since now we have
So,
developed the objects, I don't need to develop again. Like now our main aspect is to test for the quality purpose. Like whether, like if I am loading 1 million records, how much time it is taking. If I am loading 10 million records, how much time it's taking. For the same report also, like with 1 million records, report output, how much time it is taking. To 10 million records, report output, how much time it's taking. So all these test cases will be written, and some the corresponding test should be done in the quality box. So in order to do all the testing in the quality box, first of all, our object should be there in the quality box. Okay. So we don't need to create our objects again. Like whatever flow we created in the development box, I don't need to create again in the quality box. What we need to do is collect the objects in a request and transport it to quality box. Okay, so I'll just show you how to collect so that you can have a feel how it looks. Okay, so I'm just connecting to my BW system.
so I have a quick question
Yes,
on the previous slide.
yes.
Yeah, so each of these boxes is development will have a dummy data. Quality will have kind of same data or not? Like if you do
No, no.
stress testing,
Yeah, yeah. So,
then
so
the
quality will be
yeah,
having proper data. Okay, so
property.
either the R3 people, the related people, because we are into this activity, they might be loading some manual transactions they will be doing, so that some proper data would be there. Or in or in some
Okay,
systems, uh, like if it is a fresh system, yeah, like if ECC is available from last 2 or 3 years. So what they would be doing is whatever production data would be there, like real data, real transaction data, like they will dump it into the quality data box so that
okay.
it would be having some valid data. If creating some entries is not possible, dumping the data would be done.
Okay.
So
So
in
is
either,
that like
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So the database, like if it's installed on Oracle, so is it a backup restore, or we do some kind of replication setup between two servers to sync them?
that is a purely a basis work again.
Okay.
Like
I see. So we don't need to worry about that.
no, it depends upon
Okay.
organization. Either they can ask the R3 people to do the entries in the quality box, or they can directly dump the old data from production to quality so that it has valid data. Okay, so our quality box is helping us in testing because it has some genuine data based on which we can do some testing. Okay, so RSA1, as I told you, this is the most important one and the only one which we need. So okay, let us see. I will just show you an object. Okay. So if you see this object, if you want to understand any complex flows, you right click on the object, click on the display data flow. If you expand like this, you can find, else you can do like this. If you are not sure whether any above or below objects, choose both of them. Click on continue. Okay, so now you are able to see that this is the thing. So if you closely observe, so it is getting data from a file system and they are loading it into a queue. So let us say this is our requirement which we were discussing just now, and we have built it in the development box. How do we?
Can you close the mic a bit more?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So just a second. Okay, so as I was telling about this scenario, now we have, let us imagine we have developed in the development box. I need for further testing, I need to move it into the quality box. So what have we written? Collect the objects in a request and transport it to quality box. Okay, so this is like today class is also an overview. It's not an original topic which we are talking, just to get an understanding what happens. Okay, so
So what is info provider and what is info queue?
yeah, info provider is nothing but anything which provides information for reporting. So that's uh, like info cube is nothing but it is a one of the kinds of an info provider. There are many types of info providers. Info cube is one of them.
Okay.
Okay, so now, like as I told you, this is our flow. In order to move it into quality box, I need to collect everything in a request. So how do I do it? So let us see that. Okay, so
What is the transaction code for this?
yeah, it is again RS. In RSA1 itself I am doing this, but particular transaction is RSOR. So I'm choosing my objects over here.
What is exactly SCMP? So what we're trying to do here? So
Nick, if you are just following, I'm showing you how the objects will be collected in a request, and further they are moving into the transport thing to the quality box.
So what is object in our case?
All these are the objects.
So this info cube was built before, or
Yeah, it was built before, like it's an already available object. I am just telling you that in in a scenario, if an object is already built in the development box, how to move it to the quality box? Like if I just say that collect in a request and transport it, it won't be able to understand. So that's why I'm showing you how they collect in a request and how to transport also, so that you get a clear picture. It's not to confuse you, just to make it clear to you. Okay.
okay? And every time I have to go to the info provider and look for the objects. All the objects will exist in info provider.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I'm choosing my objects. I'm clicking on this button, the lorry button over here. So you can see it is asking for a package. Like we need to put something in a package. Package is nothing but a folder. Then only we can collect our objects in a request. So let us put first. It needs to be put in a package. So let us see any available packages are there. Okay, so currently no packages are there. So let me quickly build a package and put it. What
what is
happens?
package exactly here?
Package is nothing but a folder.
Oh, got it. Got it.
So what happens is like
So we are transporting from source to target.
yeah, correct. So first of all, we are not yet transporting, we are collecting in a request.
So that request will be made on target or
On the source side.
on the source.
In the development box, right? Like first we are in the development box. I have done all my developments in the development box. So since my objects are already, I have done the unit testing that whether I'm able to load the objects, load the data or not. I'm fine with that. Now I need to do the quality testing for it. So I need to move it to quality box. Okay, so I've built a package. Let me give the package name over here. Okay, so you can see what is happening within the package. It's able to store the data now. I need to create a request info cube from file data for file data. If it was from R3, I would have written some other. Description doesn't matter. It's just a thing which I am writing.
Okay. So when you make a request, what is the first step? I'm just really trying to connect here. So on the info object, I have to make a create request, or I have to type a transaction code to make a create request.
Okay. Like I think I am confusing you all with by talking about these things rather than starting the subject.
I know this is a good concept really that even I wanted to know that
No,
this is a basic one. We should know that.
yeah, that's
We
what
should
like
know that how to
my
move that.
yeah, my intention is like don't get confused, don't get stressed out. We are not doing anything. Whatever topic if I take, I'll be dealing in detail. Like let us say requests, we'll be dealing in detail. But since it is an overview, let us take it as an overview. Don't stress out too much. Just take it as an overview. Just understand technically what is happening. Okay, earlier you didn't know that this kind of thing exists. At least from today's class, you get to know that. Okay, first we develop in the development box, and do we need to develop again in the quality box? No, I'm not going to develop my objects in the quality box. Then how come we are getting into the quality box? So I'm just collecting the objects in a request and transporting it. That's it. Just know the functionality. That's it. Now how, which T codes, what is the things, we'll get to know little later.
Oh yeah. So, but I tried in the ECC side that using SC10,
Okay.
but this one is new to me. Similar
Yeah.
to that. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking you more.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
My
So.
problem is I'm totally new.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's why I do know. Like, even that's the reason.
yeah.
Like, even Sonam is also new to it. So, like, I am taking it as a
Mm,
new thing only. Maybe Mudraj or someone
yeah.
else is has some knowledge about SAP, but I am taking everyone as a fresher and I am starting it like that.
Sure. Okay.
So that's why I spent class on the look and feel also about how to enter the transaction codes. So you can see now I'm just collecting it in a request. What all objects are there, I'm collecting in a request. Okay, so I think it has got collected. So now we need to know how many objects got collected, like what are the objects we collected. So we need to go to one more separate transaction code where we can see all the collected objects in a request. Okay, so I'll go to that transaction code just to cross check whether my objects are there in a request or not.
Do you have a doc for this transaction, common transaction we are using,
Yeah, yeah,
apart from what you're typing to?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you can see based on the user ID we can see how many requests got collected. So from my user ID, this is my user ID, I'm clicking on display. So you can see this is the request for you can read InfoCube for file data. First expand and see what all are there. Different objects would be there in this. Info object is there. Okay, this is the main thing. If you would, this one would make it. So what is your info cube that got collected? What was your data transfer process? If you just go back, you can see all these things were in the part of the flow. we have chosen everything. Or if you could go to the main screen, you can see by expanding this, all these things were part of the flow. The info package, these things, DTP. Okay, so I need to include all of them, so that's what we have done. So you are having the DTP, the info package, info area, application component. You can see the info package, data source, everything is there in this, whatever transformation is there. So this is the way which we collect the object in a request. So now whatever we have developed, the total scenario is there in this request. So if I want to test it in the quality box, I need to transport this object. So just click on this again button. So okay, you can see, okay, target request is being edited, it's saying something. So let me close some other windows and let us try to release that object. Okay, what happens is in the real world, all the system connectivities will be there by the basis people. So you don't need to worry about the connectivity, and the moment you click on release, it will automatically go to the next system. Okay, so you can see release directly. Just read the status bar, what it is saying. It is saying 62 not yet released. So okay, what happens is when we are releasing also the sub object, the sub object should be released first, then the main object. Okay, the sub object is called as a task. So this task should be released first, then the main object. So that is why it was showing a message in the status bar. So now I have clicked releasing the task. You can see the task has been released. So now I need to release the request. You can see a tick mark has come. That means that it is released. You can see now again I am releasing the main object. Okay, like this we need to release. So for our
So we
scenario,
need to click on each and every object
yeah,
to release.
yeah. So all the
Like
objects
if
are,
I have like 500 objects, do I need to click on each of them?
no, depends upon how many requests you are collecting, right?
So
All
the
our,
request will have all the objects,
no,
correct?
you need to just release the request only, not the objects. All the
Okay.
objects will be under the request. So in this case, so many things are there. You don't need to release
Okay.
each one, just the object.
Okay.
So like this, first you release the sub object, then the main object. So now in this system, this is a demo system. So we do not have the connectivity to the next box. Like what we have the connectivity is only one box, development. But in real world, this would, the moment you would have done this, it would have gone to the next box, quality box. So what you would do, you would log into one more ID. Like there would be another entry over here for the quality box. You would log into the quality box and then cross check whether the objects have come or not. So obviously, since it has been released successfully, the request will be imported into the quality box. Okay. By doing this, the request will be imported into quality box. Okay, so since the request is imported into the quality box, obviously your request consists of all the objects, so your all the objects would also be brought into the quality box. So whatever you had over here, the same flow would be would be shown over there. Okay, so this is how the transporting happens. You don't need to develop objects again in the next box. Just collect in a request, transport it. Okay, so when you next, after transporting, when you log into the next box, quality box, you would be seeing everything in the correct order. So this is how transporting happens. So now since the objects are there in the quality box, what you would be doing, you need to do the quality testing. So as we discussed just now, what is the source for the quality BW system? It is the quality R3 system. For development BW, the source was development R3. For quality BW, the source will be quality R3. As we just discussed, quality R3 will have genuine data because it is for testing purpose. So now in this, you will be writing some test cases. You will be checking for data volume and reporting time. All those test cases you will be checking over here. Like simultaneously, if two people are opening a report, how much time it's taking. So what is the purpose is, because in the real world data volumes will be huge and number of users will also be huge. Unless you test for all those in the quality box, if you directly release your object to the real production box, your object would fail. It would not meet the requirement. So that's why these testings are done. So once you are okay with the testing, like data loading, irrespective of the volume, it's not taking much time for loading as well as for report output. So once you're okay with the test results, you need to move it to the next box. If you are not okay with the test results, you would do the changes in the development box and again collect that in a request and again move it to quality and test it again. So you will be testing you will be testing until you are okay with the standards. So once all the test cases are passed, you need to move it to production. So what you have to do now, again, you won't be creating anything in the production box, right? So whatever request was there in the quality box, you just need to release it to the production box. Okay, so in this case, what happens is you collected everything in the development box. So like this, we collected everything. This same thing I moved it to quality box. All the objects got uh, shown over there. Now in the quality box, I am not developing anything. I am testing. Once I am okay with the testing, I can just release the same request. So this same request, it is moving from development to quality. Once I am okay with the quality, I am releasing it again in the quality box. So since quality box is connected to production box, it will move to the production box. And once it is imported into the production box, all your objects will be there in the real system, production system. Okay, so this is how.
So when it
Yeah,
goes to production,
yeah,
sorry, when it goes to production or any other, like from dev to quality,
yeah.
does it copy just the metadata or copy the data as well?
No, you are correct with this. Only the metadata, only the object will be gone. Okay, so we will be loading the data into that. Our main purpose would be
Okay.
loading and testing with the data, volume of data. Okay, so now you need to tell me, like in the quality box for BW, the corresponding R3 system was quality. Now in the production box, production BW, what is the corresponding R3 system?
Production.
Yeah, correct. So this is where the whole uh, thing lies. Like this is where the actual business is going on. Like the customer transactions are maintained in the real production system R3. Those transactions you need to get it into the real production BW system. Okay, so we directly do not create anything in the production box. Okay, we do like this, develop, test it, then only move it to the production box. So this is,
Do we have pre-prod environment or no
yeah,
in the landscape?
yeah, correct. So now here, like as you are saying, common things would be the sandbox development, quality, production. Okay, so sandbox is nothing but it is a pure dummy system. Before developing anything in the development box, if you want to practice it or do something in which you are not accountable for, you can do anything in the sandbox. So that is the sandbox system. Generally, the clients would be having a sandbox system so that the consultants can test out something, some scenarios before starting developments in the development box. So this would be the common environment: sandbox, development, quality, production. But depending upon client, there will be different client will have different preferences. So as you said, pre-production would be there, and two testing boxes will also be there. Okay, so one would be, okay, so let us say quality box, and one more box for one more quality box for regression testing. Okay, so this is nothing like, if you just keep in mind these three things, that is sufficient. The other things would be depending upon the project and the client you are working. In the current client you would be having this, in another client you won't be having this. So what is this two quality boxes is nothing but, like, if one would be testing by developer, next box would be testing by another consultant, testing by colleague, based on test scripts. Okay, so in order to be more sure, like developer, since it is his object, he might make it as okay. He might, even if it is failing some steps in the quality box, he might force okay it. Just because he is having deadline and he needs to send it to production, he might force okay it. But because of his force okay, there may be serious problems which might occur in the production box. Your total production box would be failing. Your total data would be lost for those days. So serious problems would be there once you are dealing with production box. So to avoid this, what they will be doing is they will be having one more quality, wherein the same object test cases would be there. The developer would have told pass, and but the same test cases another person would be testing. So since he is unbiased, he will be testing and he will be passing the again test results. So once this regression testing is done, then only they will move it to production. So like this, different environments would be there depending upon client. So now, as I told you, whenever we are working, we should get to know what is the environment. That means that how many systems are there, whether a sandbox system is there, how many quality systems are there, how many production systems are there, and how they are doing it. Okay.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
when you finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say in production, so the SAP production system is like single point of failure. There is no like clustering or any standby server or load balancing.
Uh,
It always be one box, or it can be a cluster of boxes.
it again depends upon how the client, like client is very huge
Okay.
and he has sufficient amount of money, he can have a
Okay.
copy of the production box. So in that copy of the production box, every day or every weekly, the data will be dumped from the real box to this copy box, so that in any case the real box is affected, they can just connect it back to this copied box.
Okay. And second question was, I think 2 days back you were defining client, like client 200 or
Yes.
so those are defined like the production box is like what? Is
Yeah,
it like
correct.
client 400?
It all depends again, right? So you will be having different client IDs. So for each box, there might be different client IDs. Client is nothing but this thing environment to which we are logging into. Okay, as I told you, there will be client dependent objects, client independent objects also. So let us say in development box you are logging into client 001. In quality box it might be 300. In production box it might be again 001. It's just a pure configuration and how they do design the system. Now, whatever details we are getting, we need to enter the details correctly and log in. That's what is our responsibility.
So the integration will also be done in quality and testing, or no? It has to be in the development.
Uh, Integration in the sense?
Oh, so for the like if the data is coming from those transformation is defined in our development, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So if you could once we are done with the class, if you could just go through this again, maybe your doubts would be cleared, and if you further have anything, we may ask it in the next class. So this is about the landscape. So now since as a BW consultant,
Arvind,
yeah,
Arvind,
yes,
I have a question for you.
yes, yes,
Okay, so moving a transport from SE09,
yes,
okay, suppose there is an object.
yes,
Object is related to, same object is related to functionality A and functionality B.
yes,
So now I wanted to move functionality A into that quality.
yes,
So I relieve the transport.
yes,
Okay, suppose now I am building the functionality B.
yes,
So it depends on the same object. So how do I move that also?
yeah.
To that?
It depends upon,
Overlapping something.
yeah, correct. So the general thing with transporting is it will overwrite. So let us say you had your info cube with certain objects in that info cube. You moved it. Now someone has done some changes to that info cube and again moved that. So whatever earlier object was there, that will be overwritten by this new object.
And we need to reload them.
Nothing as such.
Okay, so if let's say if scheme of the cube get changed and I need to deploy this to production, so
Yeah.
only the metadata will be defined, right?
Yeah, metadata will be deployed and depends whether if you have added one more field, you need to get the data
Yeah.
for only that field, not for the entire thing.
Okay. So even if there are structural changes to the info object, it will still deploy as a as an incremental update. We don't need to reload the full entire info cube.
Yes, yes, yes. Again, like there will be multiple scenarios also for that, but mostly we don't need to load any data. For the earlier things, like for the new object or new additional thing which we are sending, we need to load the data, but for the earlier things, no need to load any data.
Mhm.
So Mudraj, is your doubt cleared, or further do I need to tell
Yeah,
something?
I got it. Got it.
Okay.
So just I wanted to check that
Yeah, yeah,
how do we do for two functionalities there,
yeah, yeah,
same object is overlapping that.
yeah,
So that
and
you said overwriting.
yeah. So this is about the thing. So this is about the landscape. So like let us say if you are going into any project, you need to first ask what is the landscape. Like then only you can get to understand how they are doing, what is happening. Then only you can uh, do something. Okay. So this is about the landscape, and next part. So Imran, like did you go through the demo recording which I have sent earlier, first one, which they might have sent you?
The first one, yeah, I done. I missed the class in the last part. I haven't gone to the last one, which you recorded yesterday.
Okay, but
But
the
so far I have understood. I think I'm not going in more detail. That's why I'm catching up. I thought if you whatever you were doing and I'm going in detail, that confused me. So
yeah,
I just step back. So I'm just looking more functionality wise.
yeah. So like what I was asking is like before joining the classes, they might have sent you some demo. Did you go through that demo?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now like why the reason why I'm asking you is the in the demo part I have covered this data flow. We have taken a scenario and we have understood how to get the data into BW and what are the different objects. So we have seen that we'll be having modeling, extraction, reporting. So extraction and reporting. So this is what we have seen, and in further modeling we have seen what happens. We need a source system, then a data source, and all those things we have seen. So what I would like you all to be is just be ready with the data flow once, because going forward this is the only data flow which we will be using. There is no separate data flow for different objects. So if you are comfortable with the data flow, you would be able to understand the theory as well as the practicals also. Okay, so let me take the data flow again. So little bit let me cover it, not in the deep, but let us do it little bit. So data flow in SAP BW. Okay, further if you want to go, get a clear picture, you might go back with the demo recording, initial demo recording, and you would get a clear picture. So like as we told, just take any scenario and try to understand. I need to load the sales data into BW. Load sales data into BW. Okay, because my end user wants some reports on that. I am unable to give him more flexibility in the reporting. I need to build the reports in BW. I'm getting the data into BW. Okay, so how do I get it? So there are the three different phases, right? Modeling, extraction, and reporting. So let us take phase by phase. In modeling, what we do. First, I need to choose the source system. Okay, source system. From where you are getting into BW. If you go through the slide over here, these are the multiple source systems which we can use and load. So we can classify this as SAP and non-SAP. That is a very simple one. Just classify SAP, non-SAP. Within SAP, you might be having ECC, CRM, SCM, so many SAP systems would be there. Within non-SAP, you would be having a file data or a database or an XML file. So like this, different non-SAP and SAP systems are there. You can bring the data from any of them. So if you see over here in RSA1, we have the source systems. You can see all the available source systems will be listed over there. Whatever web service is there, XML is nothing but the web service. Whatever file systems are available, whatever R3 system. This is our ECC client, R3 client. Okay, this one BI7 is nothing but the BI system itself. So if your source is the BI system itself, if you are not loading from an R3 system, if you want to load within the BW system itself, you can still use it as a system. So like this, so many possibilities are there. You need to be sure from where you are getting. So let us say I am getting it from R3. So my source system would be SAP R3. Okay, that would be my source system. So what I would do, I need to connect to that source system. That is my main intention. That is why I'm sorting out what is my source system. Okay, so this is my source system. Then next one would be data source. Okay. Data source is nothing but simple words, that is the source for the data. Okay, but what happens is in the R3 side, what is the source for my data? Where is my all the data getting stored? It is getting stored in the tables. So we saw yesterday, right? They are entering few transaction codes and all the corresponding data is going and storing into the tables. So your data source is nothing but the tables. But can I directly pull from the tables? No. I need a data source. Need a data source built on this table. Okay, so to lis underscore 11 vahdr. Let us take an example. Built on VBAK. Okay, so yesterday we discussed that VBAK was having sales header data. So since my sales header data, you can further write over here, loading sales header data into BW. Since my sales header data is in VBAK table, obviously I cannot pull it from the table. I need a data source on that table. So since it is a standard table, SAP will provide some standard data sources. You don't need to create any data sources. For most of the cases, SAP itself is giving a standard data source. Okay, so you just need to find out corresponding to this table what is my data source and you need to use it. Okay, so now we have found out that for this VBAK, this is my data source. Okay. Next part would be replicate the data source in BW system. Okay, what is happening is this data source is nothing but a table is nothing but a collection of fields. Even the data source will also be a collection of fields. So I have not built the data source in R3s. How can I build it in the BW? It is too time consuming. So instead of building it in the BW, we just replicate it. Replicate in the sense a copy of that will be brought into BW. You can see over here just to get an idea. So I'll do right click, metadata, replicate metadata.
So this will pull all the tables for sales and distribution?
Yeah, correct. So you can see around 120 are there. It is replicating everything. So you are correct in asking this. So now what is happening is, since you are dealing with this particular data source, why do we need to replicate other things? It is sufficient if we replicate this. So there will be a separate transaction code also wherein we can replicate only one data source instead of touching the other unnecessary data sources, because someone else might be working on that and other flows would be disturbed. So let us
So
write.
my follow-up question on that is that how much functional knowledge do we need about those tables?
No, nothing functionally you need to know. The main thing with BW is, since you are working with, you have to load data from so many areas, it's not possible for consultant to have an idea about all the areas. So they don't even
Okay.
expect it. What you need to know is little bit of the data flow. Like in sales, what happens? In materials, what happens? Okay. So we'll be covering it up during the further classes, that in each area at least some idea you would be getting what happens in that area.
Okay, thank you.
So now you can see it's taking so much time because it is replicating all another other data sources also. So to do it properly, I can choose my particular data source and replicate only that. Okay, so what is this client over here? This one. Okay, just try to understand that what we are doing. We have selected a data source. We have to select a data source over there. We have to replicate. Okay.
So T90 client is your ECC system?
Yeah, correct. So that is my corresponding ECC system. So I have chosen my source system and I'm replicating. You can see it completed so quickly, and only that object would have been replicated. Okay. Now here also it got completed, but all other unnecessary objects got replicated. So let us see our 2LIS VAHDR. You can see this got replicated. So like this, what usually will be there is, this is a demo system. Someone might have worked on this. So that's why so many other data sources are coming. In real system, no one will be doing uh, replicating the entire thing. Whatever they are doing, they replicate only that thing. So all this will be blank. Like initially nothing will be there. The moment you replicate a one data source, then only it will be listed. So
So same document header data is a table, correct?
yeah. So you can see it is having the fields. Okay, whatever fields were there in your table, you have it in the data source, and those things have replicated. So instead of building this, I have just replicated this. Okay, so this is what we do, replicate the data source in BW. Okay, now what we need to do, choose a info provider. Okay, choose an info provider. So now as you just asked me what is an info provider, so here there will be two types. First would be real info provider. This physically holds data. Okay, next one would be virtual info provider. This physically do not hold any data. Doesn't hold any data. Okay, so you can understand, first of all, info provider, like as I told, anything which provides information for reporting. So we have real and virtual. Real, well, it obviously physically holds data, so it would support for reporting, like we can build some reports on this. Virtual one, even though if it doesn't hold any data, still we can build reports on that. Okay, so this is about real and virtual. Further, the real one we can call it as a data target, because we are storing some data in that. The virtual one we cannot call it as a data target because we are not loading any data into that. Okay, so depends upon your scenario. What is your info provider? Now physically I am loading some data into the BW system, so I need a data target for that. So obviously I need a real info provider. Okay with this point? Like since I need to physically load data into BW, I need to go on with a real info provider, right?
So isn't we should create first a structure without a data and then we load the data afterward?
Yeah, correct. That's what, like now what I'm saying is choosing an info provider. Depending, now which one do we choose, a real or a virtual one? Going by this scenario, what do you say?
Right. First we should have virtual and then we should load the data. So I would say B.
No, virtual is nothing but you don't you're mixing two concepts.
Okay.
Okay, so we are talking about what is the nature of the info provider. One is a real one which physically holds data. One is a virtual one which physically doesn't hold data. End result we are talking about.
Okay. I
So
see.
even if I want to load data into a virtual, I cannot load it. That is what we need to understand. Virtual doesn't store any data, real stores some data. So in this scenario, which one do you suggest we need to go with, real or a virtual one?
Real.
Obviously, because we need to load data into BW system, right? So that's the reason we need to load it into the real info provider. So in real
So why do
info,
we have virtual?
yeah,
I mean, if we cannot hold it, it does not hold the data.
coming to that. Info cube, data store object, and characteristic info provider, virtual multi-provider, and info set. Okay, so what will happen is uh, now, like in the examples which we saw earlier also, you were able to find info cube because we were physically we were loading some data, right? So that's why we choose info cube. We could have chosen data store object, or it is called as a DSO or ODS, either of the things. Okay, or character. So I could, this is now since we want to choose a real info provider, we have several options. Depending upon scenarios, again, each one is built for a different scenario. Depending upon that, we need to choose. Now, let us say I am choosing an info cube for this. Okay. Now, coming to your question, we are having header data in cube 1, item data in cube 2. Header is nothing but an overview. Item is nothing but a very detailed information. Until the very, what is the material, what is the material type, material group, those details will be there in the item. Header means which material they are selling, that's it. Okay, now there are certain reports on this header data, certain reports on item data. In header data, can the user see any minute level information in the header data? If he wants to see any minute level detailed information, can he get in the header data reports? Right? Header data do not have item level information, right? Am I okay with this point? Yes, Imran. Mudraj.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but my question is, okay, what is the use of virtual?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. Since Imran first raised the point, I'm coming to that. Before coming to that, I was trying to explain this. Okay. So now if an user wants to see item level information, which reports he should access? Reports on Cube 2. Right? Uh,
Yeah.
so what is the disadvantage? I have two set of reports. One is the header reports. I have item reports. So user, if he wants to see detailed information, first he needs to click on overview for header report, then for detailed he needs to open another report. He cannot open like this multiple reports. So what he says is, give me all the things. It's up to me. First, I will see the header data, then I can drill down to the lowest level. So provide me in one report only the overview as well as the detailed information. So in this case, what you need to do, cube 1 plus cube 2 into
Mm.
another cube 3 build reports on cube 3 which has header and item information.
So cube can be created on only one fact table, like header, or it can contain multiple fact tables. Like there will be no item without a header, or they are related to each other, correct? These tables.
No, this is a different concept, Imran. We are talking about item data. Item data will be, as I told you, detailed level information. So, like, don't confuse with the
Yeah, but
fact.
can't I have two tables in cube one?
No, you cannot. No, what I'm saying is different. This is different set of data, right? This header data for this, what
Yeah.
we were discussing, my data sources to LIS VA HDR. For my item data, that is a separate flow. For my item data, my data source would be another one. It would be to VA ITM. So it's a totally two different scenarios going on and two different things. Now, I hope you have got to understand what the user would be requesting. He cannot access two reports. He wants in one thing. So this would be the way which we can do it. Are you okay with this point? Like both the data header plus item data and move it into another object, build reports on that. Okay with this point?
Yeah, I think the way I develop the cubes are that I can have header and item, not the BW concept, but the MSBI,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we can have multiple fact tables and then we can have shared dimension. So that's built one cube.
Yeah, okay.
But
So,
here
but
what you are doing is
here, like
yeah,
as I told you, like that is a different product. So maybe they have built it
yeah,
differently. Over here, we have only one fact table.
yeah. I think you can do it in HANA as well. Just multiple views you can join in analytic view.
Yeah, yeah,
But BW has this concept of virtual info provider.
yeah. So, like first, like, are you able to understand the reason why we need to go for a cube 3?
Yeah,
Is it, is
cube 3
it,
will just link those two cubes.
yeah. So now
So
what
what
will, yeah, now what will happen is cube 1 is having 10 million records, cube 2 is having 10 million records. Those 10 plus 10, 20 million records again you are storing in cube 3. So this is one
Oh, so
scenario.
they're not linking. So it's
Yeah,
VQ will link the metadata, or no, it will have actual data of
yeah.
Q1 and Q2 both.
You are loading it again. Like you are
Okay.
loading from cube 1 to cube 3, you are loading from cube 2 to cube 3. So for
But that's
cube,
bad, right?
yeah, right. So now this is header and item. Now user might want header plus schedule line. Again, you might want item plus schedule line. So different things he might want, or header plus item plus schedule line. So header plus. So we can't, for this we cannot move it into another cube 4, cube 5, like this we can't do because it's huge volume of data. So for these cases, what they do is they build a virtual provider. Okay, for example, we call it as a there are different types. One of them is a multi-provider info set, and we have a virtual provider also. Okay, so what this multi-provider basically does, it doesn't hold any data. You are not loading anything. It is just based on these two objects. Let me show you any multi-provider if it's available over here. Okay, let me open that. So I am searching for that object. Okay, you can see this is a multi-provider. How it would be. So in this scenario, this someone has built it. I am just taking it as an example. They are having things, order related information in one, delivery related information in one. If you want to combine order and delivery, you can build a multi-provider that is containing both of them. Okay, so you are not loading anything. It just contains both the objects. If you see over here, the multi-provider contains both the objects. Okay, so and what all fields you want, they will be listed in that also. Okay, what all things you want, they will be listed. So okay, so what
So
happens
if
now?
there is a change in the underlying queue,
Obviously it would be reflecting to the multi-provider. We need to activate the multi-provider.
okay, automatically you don't.
No, we need to
Okay.
activate it.
Okay.
So now as you might have seen, now as you have seen this multi-provider, we are not loading anything into, we are just building a multi-provider, based on these.
Sorry,
Okay.
let me tell you this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you said cube 1 and cube 2. Okay, cube 1 you are loading the real data, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the cube 2 you are loading the real data.
Yes.
Okay, suppose if you come to that multi-provider, you don't need to load the data. You can bring the data from cube 1 and cube 2, right?
Yeah. So what you are doing it now is, you are just saying that this multi-provider contains these two things. Okay, now what happens is, it doesn't store any data. So let us say I click on display data. When I do like this, if I want to see it on the screen, if I click on display data, at this moment from the underlying objects, the data will be pulled temporarily and shown. It doesn't store anything. For a temporary purpose, it pulls the data and shows us. And moreover, this multi-provider is mainly for reporting. So when the report runs, like let us say a report on the multi-provider runs, at that moment from the underlying objects it pulls the data, and during runtime it shows it. Able to understand?
So what about the dimensions?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is mostly fact table, right? So we have one fact table which green is header, the other fact table which will have green at the item level. So we will have KPIs from those two tables. But what about the dimensions which will be there, which is linked on the header table, and some will be linked on the item table?
Yeah, like in the multi-provider, if you see, we are having these dimensions as well. We need to mention what we require.
I see.
Okay, so what all you require, like from these both underlying objects, what all fields you require, you will be specifying it in the multi-provider. And once you build a report, during runtime, only during runtime the data will be fetched and displayed. So you are not storing anywhere, and no wastage of space and any other thing. And further, what happens today, user is saying order and delivery. Tomorrow we might have some other thing. I can just change this and include that object. So maintenance purpose also, it's very simple, right? So like because of this we'll be having. So now you got an idea about what is a virtual provider.
Yeah, but I think from modeling perspective, we should be able to connect all these things in one cube, whatever we need to add, like header table, item table.
No, if
Or
they
three
are
or four
coming
more
from
other tables.
if they are coming from a different source, how can you load it? And moreover, your cube should not be overcrowded.
Yeah,
You
so
are,
that is modeling, right?
yeah. So you shouldn't crowd. It would be better if you would have all these things in the cube only, but if your cube is having many things, performance will be reduced once the volume increases. So there are some things for the cube design as well. Okay. So
Hmm.
now coming back to this, we have chosen the source system, the data source. Now we have replicated the data source. Now choose an info provider. Let us say I am taking a cube. So for these things, whatever real things are there, I can call them as data targets. But for virtual things, I cannot call it as a data target because it's not a thing which we are loading, right? So choose the data target or the container. So you can info cube. Let us say I am taking as an info cube. Okay. So now I am okay with my modeling. If you go back to this diagram, what are you seeing over here? You are seeing a source system. So you are seeing a data source. You are seeing a queue. So this is what we have done, right? We have chosen a source system. We have replicated the data source. This diagram is from the BW perspective. So you might not be seeing an R3 data source over here. This is just the replicated BW data source and the final target, that is nothing but the cube. Okay.
Yeah,
So
this data source word is very confusing because data source is where you should have all the tables. I connect to a database which will have all the tables, where you have headers and items. But now data source is like linked to a table. So table is a data source. Another table is a data source. It's like that, right?
yeah, like our actual source is nothing but the table, right? But we cannot pull it from a table, so I am using a data source, indirectly pulling it. Okay. So again, like data source, I have gone in detail regarding the data source in the first demo regarding what is the extract structure, extractor program, all those things. If I continue that again, it would be late. So just request you to go through that one as well along with this one, so it would be clear.
Sure.
So we are now done with the modeling. What all things we require, we have done it. Now the next part would be extraction. Okay, in extraction, you nothing but modeling is nothing but you have created the containers. What is my source, what is my target? You need to fill that containers. What you need to do, execute info package to get the data from source system to BW data source or PSA. Okay. So what are you able to understand? When I execute an info package, I get the data from source system to BW. If you see this diagram, what do you find over here? IP. IP stands for info package. So when I run info package, the data is coming from source system into BW. So first it was in the source system, now it is coming into BW. So where is it coming into the BW? Into my data source or the PSA. So both are one and the same. This is nothing but a temporary place. PSA stands for persistent storage area, temporary place to store raw data for further cleansing if required. Okay. So just tell me one thing, Imran. What should
Yeah.
our main intention is to load the data to where? Like our actual final destination is what?
Info queue.
Okay. So obviously it would make sense if I get the data from source to the info queue. But
No, I think we will find some transformation as well.
yeah,
So somewhere ETL need to be done, right?
yeah. So that's why like we need to have this intermediate step of an info package. So when I run an info package, the data is first brought into the data source or the PSA. Both are one and the same. The PSA is part of your data source only. Further, PSA is nothing but the persistent storage area. It is a temporary place to store the raw data for further cleansing. Okay, so now what I need to do, as you also said that in the data source fields are there, in my target info objects are there, right? My cube is containing info objects. It is built by using info objects. So when I need to send it from the PSA or from the data source to the cube, on the data source there are fields, on the info cube there are info objects. There need to be some link that from this field it is going to that info object. That link is nothing but, if you see this diagram, from the field to the info object, that link is called as the transformation. Okay, transformation. Okay, so this transformation might be very complex one or a simple one. It would be either field to field direct mapping, or there may be certain different complex things also. But this one is required. Unless you specify how the data is moving, the data can't move from one field to another info object. So once you are done with this, some sort of linking you have done. If you go back to this diagram again, some sort of linking you have done. So this is my source, this is my target. First I have linked with the help of a transformation. So this triangle symbol is nothing but the transformation. So once the linking is done, whatever logic I need to apply, now the data is in PSA, it has to go to the cube. In this process, whatever things you want to apply on the data, whatever transformations you want to apply on the data, that will be applied based on the how we have designed the transformation. So in order to move the data from PSA to the cube, we require DTP, or a data transfer process. Execute data transfer process. That is nothing but the DTP. Okay,
So these transformation which we have, those are like rules driven, or we write some scripts or sprocs kind of stuff.
yeah, it's again different kinds. Either it is a direct one-to-one mapping, or certain rules will be there, or certain codings will
Okay,
also be there.
but can we?
Yeah.
So can we type scripts like, or no? It's like rule driven. You have to specify a rule or formula or value or something.
Yeah, rule driven, as well as we can write some coding also. Since
Okay.
SAP, the basic stuff is an ABAP language. So obviously we can write some ABAP code in order to achieve any complex functionalities.
Okay.
Apart from that, as you have told, this normal rule driven, several rule types also will be there. Okay, so BI, SAP BI is somewhat similar to MSBI, but still it is a little bit different, because both are for business intelligence, but different vendors, right? So they have customized it and according to them. So you would be, sometimes it would be beneficial because you already know what is happening in MSBI, but sometimes it would be confusing because there the concepts are different and here it is little different. So just take it as an independent thing. Don't try to compare both of them. If you try to compare again, there are many dissimilarities, so you would be confusing. So
Yeah, that's correct. But I think in HANA they simplified some of the
yeah,
concepts. So
yeah,
I went to that um,
yeah,
uh, course,
yes, yes.
so
So
it's more like straightforward getting in my head.
yeah, yeah. Because HANA, like, it would be based on SQL, right? So maybe you are used to SQL and all those stuff. But here, nothing SQL is there.
Yeah. So how much ABAP knowledge do we need to know, like in real life?
In this
How much
thing,
of work do we need to do in ABAP?
like I will be showing you where all will be required. It depends upon your interest. Either
Okay.
you can learn yourself, or if you know that is sufficient, there would be an ABAPer in the team and you can guide him that I want so and so stuff.
I see.
So now you can see,
Arvind,
yes,
where it comes PSA in this data flow? So in at the stage of after we execute the IP and
yes.
where it comes PSA?
Yeah, correct. So once you execute the info package from the source system, it is getting into the PSA or the data source.
Okay, got it.
So now,
So then
yes,
after that data source, then you have to be execute the DTP, right, to go to that info queue.
yes, correct. So before executing that, first we need to have a link. This link is a very important one, transformation. So as we saw, it will link from which field to which info object. So first you need to have a transformation. Once the transformation is ready, then you can run the execute the DTP. Because if the links are not ready, if you execute also, it will not work. So that's why first have the link ready, then you can execute. So once you execute the DTP, the data is there in the data will be there in the pushed to the target from
Where it comes to the this
PS.
transmission, build transmission in that chart,
Uh, this one, this
build
diagram,
transformation.
this
Yes,
triangle
correct.
diagram.
Oh, okay, done. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I am trying to say is we need you all need to be comfortable with this data flow because this already we have covered it in the demo and again I have covered it today. So just be comfortable with this. Just go through this. Like if you have to talk about modeling, what we have, everything is there. Source system, data source, target. Just here one replicate extra stuff is there which is not showing over here. And in the extraction part, info package transformation DTP, info package transformation DTP. So the bigger blocks are for modeling, the smaller blocks are for extraction. So in this way, if you just go through this diagram and try to tell it by yourselves and be comfortable with this data flow, because what happens is if I am using a DSO also the same data flow, just the target would be different. If I am using a multiple scenario, like it is from one thing I am getting it into one DSO, from second thing I am getting it into another DSO. Now user wants, now our design is such that we are clubbing into both. DSO1 and DSO2 is going into one more DSO. So in this case, what we have to understand is whenever I am moving within BW, there is no requirement of info package. Info package is required only when I want to extract from the source. So from DSO1 and DSO2 to move it into DSO main, I don't require any info package. What I require just a link transformation DTP. So you just need to understand is between any BW objects, BW data targets require just transformation and DTP. Understanding the difference, why we don't require an info package when we move it. Yes, Mudraj, able to understand this point, right?
Yeah, yes.
So just you need to be clear in this, because if it is a complex flow, you need to be able to further understand, okay, so this is one thing, this is another thing. So if I'm moving from this one to next, I don't require an info package. What I need to know is, have is a transformation DTP. So from here also transformation DTP. So now just tell me one thing.
But info package and all we did and down, if you see that in the chart,
Yeah,
okay, we already, after source system, we
yeah,
run the IP, right?
yes. So what I'm saying is,
Then there we
yeah,
don't need up to here.
yes. So once it is within the BW targets, among the BW targets, if you are sending, no requirement of info package, just a transformation DTP. Again, the transformation is nothing but a linking between this one and that one. DTP is nothing but the moving the data. Okay.
Yeah,
So
clear,
now,
clear.
now just tell me, between this DSO main and cube, what all I need to have if I want to move the data from DSO main to cube.
Another DTP.
Just a DTP is sufficient?
I guess so.
We have seen in the underlying also, right? Transformation is also required. Without a link, how can you move the data? Just understand that point. Unless you have a link, we cannot move the data.
Okay.
So now what do you say? If I want to move
So we
from,
need transformation and DTP both to move to that DSO main, then later to go to that queue,
Q,
right?
right? So that is what is there over here, right? So like this, no matter, so the data flow is very simple if you understand the basics. Okay, so this is what you need to be clear. Don't get confused. Okay, now from the cube to another object, if I want to send, what do I need?
Another DTP.
Is that sufficient?
No, always we need transformation and DTP, right? So we have
Yes.
to get the link and then we need to move it to there.
Yes. So Imran, just brush up on
Okay.
that
So
point.
DTP is not a transformation, so it's not a word one word. So I mean, we need a transformation, whether it's a straight mapping or it's a
Yeah.
transformation, correct?
Between anything you're sending from X to Y, just map first, link should
Correct.
be there. Then you need to move it.
Yes.
So as you know, data transfer process is nothing but to push the data from this object to that object. Okay, this is what is the data flow. So just be thorough with this data flow. Okay, and we'll be having a class tomorrow again at the same time, maybe little early at 7 o'clock IST.
Okay, so I have another question here. Okay, so whatever you explain now, here it is. So then you'll show step by step in that BI answer, right?
Yeah, this is just an overview,
Yeah, overview.
extended demo again.
Mm,
Okay,
got it. Yeah.
so
So that
that's,
PSA area which we have is the data will always be there, or no? When we load to the cube, that data gets truncated.
no, it will be there temporarily.
Okay, so that's temporary. Okay.
So let us say if while further loading from data source to cube, if you encounter any error message, you can rectify it in the PSA. That is why it is called as cleansing the raw data. Okay, so
But we will be going through full load, delta load kind of stuff for queues as well, right?
yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. So this is just an overview. Further still an overview is required about other things. Okay, so further we will be seeing architecture of BI. What all everything is there in BI. We'll see the architecture tomorrow. And then we'll be starting with
One
info
last
objects.
question.
Yeah.
One last question.
Yes, yes.
The info cube which we build, what is the data structure? How it stores data?
It is
What is the
it is
structure of a data?
extended star schema. So whatever
No,
star
how the
scheme,
object gets stored, like
it is having in one fact
is it a
tables.
bitmap index? Is it a dictionary?
Yeah, bitmap index is also there, and bitem index. So it is nothing but a fact table surrounded by multiple dimensions. Bitmap indexes.
It's a bitmap index. Okay.
Okay. So
Tomorrow at what time?
that's what little early 7 a.m. IST or 6:30 a.m. IST. I will just confirm with the other students' availability, and the institute people will get back to you. Yeah, are
Okay.
you
So tomorrow,
available first?
do we
First
have a
of
class on
yeah,
Saturday?
yes, yes. We uh,
Okay.
okay. Are you available tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Saturday for us, so we are available, no issues.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
I'm available too.
okay. So regarding the timing, like they will be confirming you regarding the timing, but it will be earlier than today.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I have another class as well. I just want to make sure that I can.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, sir.